Amazing. Okay. And yeah, I don't, muting should be happening. Wonderful. So everybody, my name is Siobhan. I am your host this evening. Boy, and honestly, we used to do these regularly once a month in the evenings, and it's been a minute, as Lizzo just said in our opening. So I'm so happy to be here, and we have a super fun evening with you and with everyone as I'm continuing to let people in. If you want to say hello in the chat, that would be fantastic. And let us know where you're joining us from, and we will get this thing going. So this is our home studio show and tell. If you haven't been before, welcome. If you have been before, also welcome. We are here to explore two voice actors' home studio spaces, and they're just going to share what they have, where they do their work, and we'll do a little Q&A with them. This is simply to exchange thoughts and ideas and to gain some inspiration from the community. This is obviously a free event, and so everybody who is here out of the people who are demonstrating tonight are doing this out of their kindness of their beautiful hearts, donating their time and energy. So we expect to maintain that positive energy here in the chat and you know, in our squares, as it were. Also with us, you know, it hasn't always back in the day, but we do have our Chief Edge Officer, Dave Goldberg. David, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Hello.
Evening hours, David. I like to joke about how I'm not really that different, evening hours versus morning hours, although you can let my friends can let, well, you know, say whether they think that's true. But I think that David's actually also kind of the same evening and morning hours based on all of that. Okay, I literally have these settings turned off, so I'm really
let me interject here, Siobhan. Your mic sounds a little bit funky.
all right. Let me change my setting. I'll just use my computer mic.
Oh, that's so much better.
Okay,
There you go.
Voila.
okay, so I'm having some trouble here. I'm just gonna all right, I'm muting everybody. I'm muting all of the participants. So my hosts can unmute themselves, but everybody else I have muted. Great. Okay, so order in the Zoom room, as it were. So David, you're having a good night. Good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks. You know, guys, when we started the home studio show and tells a number of months ago, Siobhan, what, even 6 months ago or so, we ran it for I'm sorry?
Over a year.
Home studio show and tell over a year ago? Wow. It's so cool. We stopped for a while. I hope you guys missed it because we're back and we're back to stay. It's really good to know that we have now a real dedicated time slot. We ran these for a while. We learned quite a bit about them, how they feature, the best ways to run these things. We got notes from people and thoughts, and lots of people saw them, and they're super fun. They're really super helpful. And so these will now be the first Tuesday of every month at this time, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. So you should jot that in your calendar, the first Tuesday of each month. And I feel like we should get right to it. I know both voice actors who are on tonight who are displaying their studios. I know them both very well, and they are both fantastic.
I absolutely agree. These are folks invited by David to join us tonight. Before we get to that, though, I'm going to make a quick Edge Studio announcement regarding our demo flash sale. Because, I mean, you know, we're all here. I'm going to talk about it before I lose you. We have a super sweet deal on our demos right now, which is if you get it by tomorrow, EOD, end of day. That's how long the demo flash sale lasts at this point in time. And it's $7.95 for a demo prep session and the demo record. And David, folks have 2 years to use this, right? So if you feel like you're not ready now, you can purchase it and you can use it for up to 2 years from today. So that brings us to, oh my gosh, like 2025. Well, we'll all be superstars by then. So you might as well get it, because then you can just lay down your superstar tracks, you know, at the beginning of 2025. So click that little linky and let's step forward with our guests. So there's this Zoom experience, obviously, if you're on a desktop, if you're on a tablet or a phone,
good luck to you. It's a little bit more difficult to navigate chat and screen, so you might just want to experience it through the screen. However, if you are here on a desktop, you should, if your Zoom is not full screen, you can have your chat in your sidebar next to you, or it'll pop out as a pop-up if you are looking at us full screen. This experience is being recorded in speaker mode. I will be presenting, as you all know I like to do. I will bring forth the spotlight and I will remove the spotlight. Otherwise, I'm here with you all in gallery, so I can say hi to Tim. I got JD. I got all my friends. I can see their squares. But if to your viewing pleasure, if you want speaker the full time, which means you get to see my face blown up as well as Erica's and Dan's and David's, then that is for your viewing pleasure. The chat itself, you can save it. At the bottom of the chat, there's a little ellipses, like right next to the kind of emojicon. And at the top of that drop down from the ellipses says save chat. So you can keep the chat for the memories, and the links that might come regarding gear. Just as a quick sidebar, we cannot tell you all the gear that you should get for your space. That's not what this night is. People can talk gear in the chat, go to town in the chat regarding it. I cannot have, my guests tonight be giving their personal recs for everybody's completely different spaces and completely different environments. So let's just be super clear on that. And in the meantime, let's get some inspo. And yes, oh my gosh, Micah, it's great to see you. And JD says Dan is the best. And we got Bruce in the house. Hey, Bruce, I'm so happy you're here. All right. Amazing. So let's get this going. I'm going to bring to the Zoom stage my new friend, Erica.
Hey, Siobhan. Sorry, I just want to say something to everyone. So these are so cool. The reason we run these is because presumably all of you either have a home studio or you don't have one, but you're in the process of putting one together or even considering putting one together. And so this is a time for people to see what a studio can look like. And you can ask each other questions. You can ask the people who are touring their studios. You can chat over some questions. We can share ideas with one another. And in the past home studio show and tells, it's been really fun because someone may ask a question and about a microphone or a piece of gear or software or something. And then a whole lot of people have an idea for them. So it's a really wonderful way to share ideas with each other. So that's what this is about. So everyone should feel welcome to post information in the chat. Whatever you want is fine.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, great. So Erica, you have unmuting powers. Yes, you can.
I have unmuting powers.
We love it. It's great. It's a great feeling. So Erica, I'd love, as I like to do to get started is just a little bit of about you section. So I know we love a little mini bio, but so if you can just tell us a little bit about what you do as a voice actor and where you're located, just a little bio. Yeah.
I am in Boston, and I think I might be the newest coach on the Edge Studio roster, if that's, I don't know. Maybe there's been another one since me. But I do a lot of stuff in corporate and e-learning, and I also do commercial. I also do healthcare and medical pharmaceutical narration. So that's kind of been my bread and butter since I graduated from Edge Studio a while ago.
Yay.
And my studio, my voiceover studio has also evolved in all of that time too. I remember when I was working with Art Bruder on my narration demo, that for a while I was in a closet that ended up having I think it was the main central line for the plumbing. And so anytime anybody would flush a toilet in the building, then I would get a whoosh sound in my booth. So that was not a good closet to set up shop. And then I remember doing I did my narration demo in a tent. I had found a tent, and then I put a whole bunch of moving blankets on top of it and then filled it with pillows. And that was my recording space for my first narration demo, or for my first demo. And then over time, I kind of built it up into something with freestanding walls. So I am kind of lucky in that I am in a basement room with pretty it's pretty sound isolated. It's not soundproof, but it's pretty sound isolated. So when I was looking for an economical, essentially room within a room, I went with the company called Clear Sonic, and they are famous for making drum cages, which are these plexiglass. Actually, we know this. They also ended up pivoting in COVID times for like those spit shields, but it's plexiglass that then gets like essentially a sound insulated with these baffles, which I'm now trying to use. Anyway, you can see them here behind me and in my screen, but they're 2-inch thick acoustic foam. And so this company makes drum cages so that way drummers can practice in their apartments or in their houses and not drive their neighbors bonkers. And I thought, that's just like me. I don't want to drive my neighbors bonkers. I was an opera singer as my first career before doing voiceover. So I know how to annoy neighbors at various times of the day with my voice. Anyway, this more or less, I end up, I have essentially a closet within a room. So I have my phone here, I'm going to try and show you a little bit about what my space looks like, and it may not work. And if it doesn't work, then we know. I have you guys will see yourselves there. I have 2 monitors. This one that's brown here is just so I'm not washed out in the thing, but I really enjoy having my my DAW show up on this screen, and then I read my scripts over here, and my microphone is right next to that. And so that's my way of being able to kind of multitask, or to be able to be my own engineer at the same time as I am also having to be the voice actor. So I find the double screen, and it's just a continual screen is what I do.
I'm sorry, I need to interrupt. I just want,
Yeah.
sorry, Erica.
Yeah, please.
I want to make sure that everyone can see her camera view, because Erica
can-
has 2 different visuals on. And when she began showing off from her phone that she's moving around the room, it didn't default on my screen. So you may
okay.
need to search for her second screen. Like I had to click over.
I have spotlit. I've spotlit Erica and her screen. So if you are on a desktop,
Maybe we should take this one, the one that I'm talking on, maybe take that one off spotlight.
why don't
that's
I
helpful.
I'll remove us both so that there's just one. I'm going to take myself out of this equation. Okay, so
All right.
we're getting
There's a close up on
Okay.
the
Thank you
the
guys.
baffles. So it's a pretty small space. I'm standing here and you can see my hand. I have foam up here. I've given myself a little tiny window over here. And the nice thing is comes with also a baffled roof. Sorry, it's kind of bright, but I was looking for something that would contain my sound and prevent echoes, and also my little be a goofball sign for auditioning. And that's essentially everything I have. And then I also have a standing sitting desk, and that has been my it felt like it was something that needed to happen because I was doing just days and days. It felt like 7 days a week I was doing auditions, and I wanted to be in my body for things for animation, or if I was doing something that was really full bodied, and even longevity, even like stamina stuff. So if I was doing an audiobook or if I was doing an e-learning sort of thing, then it felt really important that I had my breath control under me. So eventually I ended up going from a sitting desk to a standing desk. And that's just a matter of preference. But I like having the option when I have to do a long editing session. So when I have to go edit, a long e-learning course, then I have a chair and I can sit down and I can take a load off. But for the most part, I'm spending most of my time auditioning standing up. And then in terms of gear, which it's kind of hard to show, so maybe I'll turn my phone off unless anybody wants to see anything in particular. Like,
Yeah, Erica, do you mind explaining to everyone why you have different types of foam on your wall?
Yeah, it's mostly, this is very funny. This is because I really would like to have all of this kind of foam over there, But once I started doing video, it looked really weird to have, when I first got this booth, what they told me is that, and it actually worked, is that you only got foam for the level that you were speaking at. So you didn't actually have to have a wall to ceiling upholstered or sound absorbed room. You could kind of, as long as you weren't screaming, and I wasn't doing a lot of animation, I wasn't doing a lot of video games, you could have it just at this level. So when I was in a seated desk, I started with just maybe 6 or 7 panels on one side, just going around. And then I ended up investing in the next level when I got a standing desk, and then I needed both. And then I opted to put the nicer looking ones behind me for Zoom calls and the ones that had gotten scratched up by my cats because the cats find them where people don't typically see them. But this is the underbelly. You guys get to see it all. Has no acoustic. Essentially, it's the same absorbing quality. And the only thing I would say that I always try to be aware of is that by having 2 screens in this little tiny space, having 2 monitors, I'm also dealing with the potential echo of something bouncing off these computer monitors. So I try to keep them tipped, and I try to kind of be aware of when I'm listening back to my recordings, if anything has picked up. I never hear it, but I'm always just like, that's another flat surface. And I think what we're always concerned with prepping our studios or creating our home studios is that we've eliminated almost all opportunity for echo. And so anyway, that's kind of my thought about that. And I would say this space is, I mean, I can't actually put my entire arm up. So up to I can do a fist, but I can't do my fingers extended. So it's probably about 7 feet tall, 6.5 feet tall, I think. And it takes up, I don't know, 5 feet wide and maybe 5 feet in depth or something, or 6 feet in depth. So if you have kind of a small space, this is a good solution, and it doesn't break the bank. If you need more sound insulation, many people get double walled sound booths. And I found that I just didn't need it because I didn't have windows and I didn't have the things that normally interrupt a recording session.
Erica, did you find that the diffusers made a difference? Because in addition to the square foam panels you have, you also have some diffusers. I saw at least 2 or 3 diffusers. Do you want to talk about that?
The diffusers are in there because I got like a box set of foam that had foam, the square ones and the diffusers, and they all came in the box set. And they're there because they fit there nicely, and they can kind of change to fit the space that they need to fit in. You're not talking to an actual audio engineer. You're talking to someone who has been crafting her little, padded room over time. And I'm very glad that Dan is here and he can answer all of your acoustic questions, because that is not my forte.
Well, I would just like to say that I'm sorry, this is a working voice actor. I think you're an audio engineer. I'm just going to say that you may
absolutely.
Right. Maybe you're not the most confident one, but you're doing it. And so if anybody out here is doing it with whatever DAW, digital,
and it takes a village. Nobody is getting their space, ready and their DAW up and running without having a Dan Lenard or a David Goldberg or whoever your coach is listening to your audio and saying, yeah, I hear a little bit of echo, or I think that your noise floor is a little loud, or whatever. We're always having to get feedback from professionals with really good ears. And with the acoustic knowledge and the kind of physics of sound stuff and the technology element, to be able to coach us into what we should do, because our first priority is really still should be as actors to be actors, but kind of in a close second, because we're now at this we're just kind of a self-contained small business where we have to provide finished audio for people. Then we have to build those skills too, and build the space too.
100%. I want to get to some of the questions in the chat, really, if possible, before David, you were going to say something?
Yeah, this is a good question. Dan, you may know the answer to this.
Dan's not on the mic yet. It'll get too chaotic for the moment, but keep going.
Okay. But he can hear us. Or
Yeah.
Dan, give me a thumbs up if you can hear us. Yeah, cool. There's a company, an acoustic company, that makes a product that is a translucent, thin sheet that looks solid. It looks like a piece of plexiglass, but it's actually complete. It's made of thousands, millions perhaps of tiny perforations, tiny holes that allow sound to go through and get absorbed. And it's great. So if you have a big screen, Erica, that is bouncing back, you can
Mhm.
get this covering and you put it over your monitor. And it really does look like just a screen cover. Like it looks like clear glass, but it really it does an amazing job of absorbing sound. And I've heard it before. I've heard it demoed, but I just don't know the name of the product. And maybe Dan knows when he's on.
Cool.
I want to ask you before I move it along, but Erica, do you know the dimensions of your space? People are asking how big your room is.
The space that I record in, I think is 6.5 high. And then this is kind of a modular setup. When I called this company to get this sound booth or this drum cage, they're a little bit like Legos. So each one of these baffles is on a 24-inch width panel. And then you just kind of buy as many panels as you want for your space. So when I first started out, I had a space that was about, I think it was 4 feet wide or so. And then I got a new desk and I needed to expand it a little bit. So my little hexagon here ended up kind of changing shape a little bit and went out to be 5 feet in diameter, or in kind of crossways, in width. And I think it's probably about 4.5 to the wall in front of me to where I'm standing.
I also have the clear sonic stands, the portable walls, and they connect by Velcro and they're fantastic. I'm in my home office right now and I have no echo, even though I'm in a room with hard ceiling, hard floors, cement wall. You can see behind me. I have these, I'll grab my little camcorder here and turn it around. Here are the same walls. And I just put them around my desk when I have a call.
Yeah.
And they're fantastic.
I should say this is also, I take these baffles and I put them in a bag. I take 4 of them off the walls when I go traveling, and I take Velcro with me. And these baffles create my travel rig studio. So I just take the 4 walls and I Velcro them together and put in it, and then I put it on a hotel bed, or I put it on a desk and a towel on top, and it becomes a little kind of 2x2 square or something cube that I put my head in. And then I might also need to put a blanket on top of my head, but it ends up it's very lightweight to carry these 4 things. And then you just bring Velcro along to keep them all together. And I found that to be that takes a real stress off of me to have to go into a hotel room and try and make a pillow for an audition or for a project or for a pickup, which I never essentially travel now without my mic set up. But now it feels a lot now I feel like I'm prepared no matter if I have enough pillows or enough blankets or whatever. I can do it now with these baffles that I bring along with me.
What is the situation with your fans? You got fans in there in your space to keep it cool?
No. My space is not airtight. I don't have it's really freestanding walls. So I have a lot more air that passes through than a typical double walled or even single walled whisper room or something. I don't have a gasketed door. I just have a plexiglass thing that closes. It's just another panel that has a hinge. All of the panels, how they stick together is just with this hinge, and then the hinge can go back or forth. So I don't have fans. I don't need fans. I sometimes need to turn off if the heater or the fan or the air conditioning turns on in the room. Sometimes my microphone picks it up and then I'll turn that off, but I don't need it actually in the space because there's some airflow.
How about your PC? Are there fans? Do you have noise that comes from there?
So I put my computer on the outside of the booth, and then I have cables, and probably the longest extension cord I've had to get is for my webcam, which is just a little single USB extension that I can put my webcam into, but I put it outside of the booth and it just sits there and does its little whirring without too much interruption.
You hit record and then you walk in.
No, I have here, we'll see if we can use this. I have my my desk. If I have my DAW working, then I just have a shortcut key for pushing record here on my keyboard. And this is a wireless keyboard. It's a Bluetooth keyboard that's connected to the computer that's outside my booth. This is a speaker, so I just don't have to wear my headphones when I'm on a call. My interface is here. And so everything's at the only thing I have to push outside of my booth is my computer. I just have to turn it on in the morning. That's my one little button that I push.
Amazing. Okay. We love it. Great idea. Jim says, put it outside. Tell us about your mic arm and how it's nice.
The mic arm. So this was I think it's the blue. The people who make the Blue Yeti also make this awesome mic arm that has cable management. Cable management, my friend.
I have the same one. My goodness.
It's so
you and I are like in sync on this.
It is like, I don't know, something about cable management, especially when you're already in a cramped space, feels really nice. So if you guys didn't see that, I'll do it again for you here from the top. That my XLR cable goes up and around. See, there's the blue thing, goes into my mic, goes down, and then it's like it's not like a big mess. Just goes to my interface. And it all works perfectly. And I have this little hook here for my headphones. I mean, I spend hours and hours here. So you have to kind of reduce the friction. If I have to deal with cables, I'm going to get like stressed out, and that's going to show up in my read. So cable management. I think it was like $100 at Sweetwater, and they convinced me. They were like, "Oh, this is the best boom arm." And they were right.
It is great. I also have a standing desk, Erica. It's really interesting. Our studios, mine's just an office, right?
I studied at Edge Studio. I'm sure that this has rubbed off.
Maybe.
Is it called the Blue Compass arm, or what is it called? Blue Yeti makes it?
Sorry, it's Blue. Blue is the microphone company who makes Blue Yetis and Blue other things, but I don't know what the actual arm is called.
Do you know, David?
Yeah, I don't remember the name. I'm looking it up right now.
Okay. So then,
for anyone who's not looking at the chat, you should look at it, by the way, because there've been a lot of really interesting comments, some links put on. So make sure you guys remember at the end of the session to download that chat, because once this call ends, the chat is gone. Seriously, it's gone. So we'll give you a couple of, a minute or so at the end to download it.
Cool.
And I'll look that up. So Siobhan, sorry. I'll let you know when I find
it. Looks like someone just did. The Yeti Caster professional broadcast. Oh, it's in the broadcast bundle, but I think you can buy just the arm on its own.
Yeah, I bought just the arm.
Yeah, that's each link, but perhaps on Sweetwater. Okay, amazing. So many questions and lots of good things. And if we have time, we'll bring Erica back with Dan, but I want to, be mindful of everybody's evening. Erica, you are such a pleasure. Thank you for showing us.
Likewise, Siobhan. And I can't wait to read the chat because I missed it as I was wielding a camera or whatever, a phone.
Wielding, yeah, you're working it. But and if you're so inclined, you can pop responses in the chat as well.
Okay, we'll do.
Yes, I'm gonna relieve you of this the spotlight situation here, and I'm gonna bring our next guest. Y'all, up twinkles, applause as we bring our next people into the space. Erica, you're amazing. Here we go. We got Dan, and then we have Dan's.
All right, you can probably hear me through this one, but we'll be switching microphones here every now and then. So
amazing.
Anyway, so you'd like a tour of this place?
We want. Can you tell us a little bit about your life as a voice actor as well, just so we know a little bit about you?
Well, I've been doing this literally since the Carter administration. So that's a good 45 years of doing voiceover and radio and television and insurance and teaching. And then about 2001, I became a full-time voice actor, doing it online since we could, and lived in Buffalo, New York for many years. And then for a number of very good reasons, we moved out here to California in 2015. And, there's lots of stuff that goes on here. Now, one of the things that I do is I teach other people how to record at home. What are the basics to recording? And I do a lot of that type of consulting work. Voiceover work comes to me from my clients. I'm at that point in my career where most of it is just coming to me. I don't have to go looking for it unless I really want to. If a good audition comes in, I might do that sort of thing. But I've been doing this a lot longer. You guys are at the start of your careers. I'm sort of like winding down at the end here and have more important things to do, like helping as president of World Voices, world-voices.org, where we are a guild. We're teaching people how to do these sorts of things. We have a searchable directory of our professional membership, and we have a new demo player that we have, and we also have a convention coming up in Orlando, May 5th through the 7th. So if you want to join WOVO and come join us in Orlando, that would be fabulous. It's not a big commercial. It's not a big commercial thing where, it's no hype, no selling, just members helping members, which is a totally different concept. And if anybody was ever at FAFCon, it's going to be a little bit more like that. Anyway, so you want the story of this place?
Yes, let's hear it.
There's quite a story. All right, when we moved here, my good friend Mark Cashman, who I'm sure some of you are familiar with, I was having lunch with him because we knew we were moving out here, and we just happened to be here in Sherman Oaks. And I said, I really got to find a place where I can build a studio. And he goes, just find a house with a garage and build a studio in the garage. Okay. So we're looking at real estate here in Sherman Oaks because we needed to be in Sherman Oaks for a number of reasons. And I go on Zillow and I type in this particular zip code, house with recording studio and garage. This place popped up. So let's go out here, Jake, and then my cameraman will switch to the other cam, actually, and mute the other one and unmute the other camera here. Okay.
Copy that. Hold, please. Dan literally has a PA with him. Dan, you gotta unmute though.
Sure.
Okay. Anyway, okay. So this is the voiceover body shop. Come on in. All right. First, I have to give you a little bit of the ambiance in here. Hold on a second. Let me just mute this so we don't get in.
That's the way. Oh my goodness.
So one of the things I do is I collect old radios. Because I was in radio and television, you'll find any station manager had an old microphone in his office or an old radio. So I have both. So show them all the stuff that's there. These are all old 70 years or more radios that all work. And actually I've got them hooked up so that they will actually play whatever I want. So this is coming through 70-year-old radios. Okay, enough of that. You guys want voiceover. Okay. This is my workstation here.
Excuse me, Dan, we're getting an echo from you.
A Rodecaster Pro, which is real easy to use.
Dan,
Yes, sir.
sorry, we're getting an echo.
Yeah,
I
I
think
hear
you have
that.
both mics open.
Just turn down the headphone a little bit. Okay, that better?
Yes, it is.
Better,
Okay,
yes.
good. This is the workstation. It's a Rodecaster Pro. It does cool things like, plays music and sound so I can have fun teaching and stuff. These are Yamaha H2 studio monitors, so I can hear exactly what it is that I'm recording. And, it's hardwired internet, and this is an X chair, incredibly comfortable. It was a gift because I don't have a really good back. Anyway, but here's the cool. Now I do work from there. As you can see, I've got a Mojave MV50 there that I use for teaching, and sometimes I can do auditions from there. But the studio was built for a number of reasons. One, to do voiceover, and two, for doing voiceover body shop, which is why we have a green screen back here, and you can see how it's set up here. We did the show last night, and we record it every week or every other week, and then George and I do an hour of tech talk. We interview a guest. It becomes 2 shows, and we run it for 2 weeks, and we just have a great time. So watch it at Voiceover Body Shop on Facebook or at vobs.tv. That too much promotion, David?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, so the great thing was this was built as a recording studio. Now over there, you can see there's a glass door there. We thought that might have been was a vocal booth, but in reality, don't go in there. It's really messy. It became an equipment closet because the acoustics in there were terrible. In here, if you aim up, you can see that there are clouds in here. These are all, I built 2 of them. 2 of them were already in here because we needed a room to do voiceover. And fortunately, there's a drum isolation booth that was built in here. And this became my booth. So as you can hear when I come in here, that it sounds a lot quieter. Got a Sennheiser 460. You can close the door. It's not going to make a whole lot of difference. Just make it more crowded in here.
Out of 2.
Thank you. So there's a number of things going on in here. One, the acoustic material, as you can hear, it's very, very dead in here. I can yell really loud and it's not going anywhere. Here's a key little quick tip though. The louder you talk, the more the acoustics of the room come into play. So don't yell. It's, kind of like, can we talk about diarrhea? That's more voiceover like. Anyway, the acoustical treatment in here. One is, this is also a closet. So there's lots of storage behind here, but it still left me plenty of room. Pull back a little bit. Okay. And you can say I had plenty of room to move here. And I've got my Sennheiser 416. This is proper. We have proper dog sticks. There's nobody back there. Shut up. Okay. You can see that there's this nice pattern here, but behind it is a material called Studio Suit that I manufactured about 10 years ago. That it surrounds the entire thing, and that acts as a really good acoustical absorber and diffuser. I've got moving blankets on here. There's Orlex panels up here that have been covered with fabric. This is a panel that I built for somebody else. He hasn't taken it yet, so it's in here and it works really well for that. This is an old Atlas microphone stand. There's one of the things you can do. If people are like, they don't want to use, if you've got like a tripod stand, everybody trips over those. So I use a metal base stand. If you can show them the metal base stand of the right here. And if you take a bag of rocks or something like that, that will keep the microphone nice and steady. Anyway, and then so I've got a music stand that is open as opposed to a flat panel. So you can like steal one from the local high school or something, and that usually works pretty well. But my iPad is here. I've got headphones that are plugged into the Rodecaster. So if I'm doing a remote session, I can hear it both ways. And that makes it real easy. And so this is where I do my work. This is acting space. Out here, and you can switch microphones again. Okay, let's go back to my main picture. Unmute. There we go. All right. So, all right. Mute the other one.
No, I'm like looking for you. Okay, give me.
There's only 1,000 people in there.
All right, I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna remove this spotlight.
Okay. and
Now-
spotlight this one.
I'm gonna spotlight, I'm muting like your, and is this, am I doing this right?
Okay, and then unmute the one with my picture. No, the other one.
Okay, so I've unmuted.
There we go. Okay,
Yeah.
and then highlight this camera here.
Oh, hold on. Here we go. Here we go. Wait, here we go. I'm gonna add the,
There we go.
and then which one am I muting, Dan? The one,
You're muting this camera here.
It's so hard to tell when you're
wait, did I do it right? Is that right? No, that was wrong. That was wrong. Hold.
while they're figuring out the mic. Guys, I'll tell you something that's really what I like about Dan's studio. It's so nice to have pattern. So many studios are dark, and a lot of the acoustic foam that people buy, diffusers, foam, bass traps, they're often dark, and you end up in a dark room, which is great, I'm sure, for some people. But you may find that it really kind of cheers you up if you're recording and you have something more of a light pattern. And even if you have your acoustically treated walls, but you cover them with a sheet or some soft fabric that has a pattern, it might really make a difference in your day. Because if you are spending hours and hours at that mic in a small padded room, you want to make yourself happy. You know, I think it's dynamite what Erica said. Just getting rid of cables made a big difference for her. And you may all find that getting rid of dark colors or maybe not, whatever, you have to find something that works for you. Okay. That was Phil talk there. You guys back on?
We love it. Okay, did I do it? Dan, did I get it?
You can hear me. If you can hear me. if
And
I-
that's-
Yes.
Okay, great. Do you want me to remove the spotlight of the
Yeah. Fine,
the
yeah.
wide angle?
I'll just talk from here and I can hear everybody, and then and Mishka will shut up eventually.
Question to you, Dan.
Sure.
You sound so good and you're moving all around. So how are we doing that? Was that because the audio was coming through from the mic that you're sitting at right now while you were, is that
Yeah.
how we,
I was actually using on this camera here. Hand me this camera.
the
This
PA is killing me.
using, it's a actually Joe Cipriano gave this to us. It's a Steadicam. So you know it will do that kind of thing. But I've got a Rode GoPro or it's a Rode Go something or other mic. Anyway, it's designed to go with an iPhone or an iPad.
Yep.
And it works really nice. As you,
Sounded so good. Yeah. Okay. Mate, I was just, we love to see movement and clear audio simultaneously. Also, no one in the history of these has brought like their own PA to this to present with. And I love the production. So thank you. I interrupted though, as I was asking you that, and you might have been in the middle of saying something.
I can't even remember what I was saying. All I do is talk all day. I can never remember everything that
Good.
I'll tell you, there is something interesting in the chat. Someone wrote regarding putting weights on your mic stand. They wrote stick 5 or 10-pound dead weights in old athletic socks, 2 per sock, and drape over the legs. Really interesting ideas. You know what's interesting, everyone, is that you have to find the studio that works for you. One, Erica started saying this before, right? Your space is different, but on top of that, your voice is different. The kind of genre or voiceover you record could be different. And some people do sound better sitting. Most sound better standing. Some people are very animated and need a lot of space. And some people like a closed space. Some people are in a booth for long periods of time and need more ventilation. Some don't. There's no one studio. Sorry, I should say, my point is that there's no one right way to do any of this. You do have to figure out what works for you, which is so interesting, because when we watch Dan's studio and Erica's studio, and we look at other studios from previous home studio show and tells, you'll see everyone has such a different take on this. Everyone's trying to get the same thing, right? Everyone's trying to get clear audio, no noise in the background, and no echo and so on. And everyone does it differently. Hopefully you take away from this hour that there are lots of different approaches, and you have to find what works for you.
totally.
So, Dan, there's actually a question about your chair, which is, it's comfortable enough to work in for hours. You like this chair. It's a good.
It ain't a cheap chair, and it's totally worth it.
Yeah, I mean, y'all, the investment in these things is like, you can have like goals, like everything we're talking about. And I say this all the time, but it's like if you make lists of all the things you want, and then you look at all the prices, and then you feel like crying, then like just slow it down, and long-term goals and long game here is what we're talking about in a lot of ways here. Jim is asking Dan, what's the best way to reduce noise from the windows?
Have no windows. There's a big window over here. Jake, why don't you turn the camera around so you can see what I have up there. Thank you. There's a blind in there, and then I built another blind out of a moving blanket. But there's also, remember, this was built as a recording studio. So there's a double paned large glass thing behind that sunlight would come right in. I'm like, I got to cover that up. So there's no sound coming through there. This was built like a rocket blockhouse. I mean, if there's a nuclear explosion, I want to be in here. It's pretty it's very sound tight, but nothing will stop the sound of a helicopter at 500 feet. It's just, and we have them here in the valley, and it happens. But,
we got them in Hollywood too. Dan, do you how's the temp in the garage? I mean, LA it's the kind of situation where you're probably not going to freeze. I mean, some of our students in like Long Island, I remember at one point, this guy, he had his studio in a garage and he was doing great. And then like, January hit and he's like in gloves and a scarf in his garage. So how's the temp in your space?
Well, in the summer, as you can see, there's a ductless air conditioner up there, and it's really, really quiet, and which was really nice when I could go into this booth and still have the air conditioner on. So it's always cool in here. And right now it's very cool in Southern California, as anyone in Hollywood will tell you. I've got the door opened. It's probably, what's the temperature in here right now? It's about 60 degrees in here. So that's why I have a dog to warm me up here. And wait, there's a bug.
And no noise from the 405 or Van Nuys airport flights?
Well, sometimes from the Van Nuys airport, they come over here, but people who live over by the airport, they're the ones that are all complaining. And then the flights coming out of Burbank, the FAA changed the rules on them, and they've got to be at 10,000 feet by the time they fly over my house. So you rarely hear that kind of stuff. And the 405, if you go outside, you can hear the 405 and the 101. But boy, doesn't that sound California like?
They made that law for voice actors, actually, because there's enough of us out here. So y'all, in the last 10 minutes, we're staying kind of right on time here. I brought Erica back into so if you're on desktop, again, tablets or phones, it's just like it's a wild world. But if you're on desktop, you should see the three of us now. And it does sound like Cali. I know, not your life, Micah, at all out there in Colorado. But so yeah, if folks have questions for either or, oh my gosh, the pets. Also, let's hear it for the VO pets in the house. We got dogs and cats.
They're very important for acoustical absorption, right?
Okay. Dan, can you put your dog on the screen so we can see? Yes. Okay, here we go. Taking a screenshot. Yeah, I did that. Okay, so if folks have questions for either or both of my or guests tonight, then now's the moment to ask them. I certainly have my general questions I like to ask, which is that I can do, while we're waiting for anything to queue up.
I did want to say, sorry, Siobhan, I didn't mean to interrupt. There was a bit of a discussion about window inserts, and after Dan had said that he didn't have windows, or that you were already double. I've used window inserts, which are gasketed plexiglass things. And if you only have single paned glass and you have some depth of a windowsill, then the dead space between the insert and the outside window really does bring a pretty good noise reduction. That was the case in my house, and I just wanted to say that I think it works. So, tip for all of you people.
I know. Sorry. Oh, I know a number of voice actors who have studios with windows, and they have cutouts. So cutouts of foam that fit into the window frame. They may hang them or something, or Velcro. And when they record, they put those on the windows. And as soon as they're not recording, when they go into editing mode, they take them right down. So they actually have sunlight, and whether they open the window or not and get fresh air in, that's, I don't know, but it's a really easy way to be able to kind of seal up the sound, so to speak, and then still have light, natural light when you want it.
So, okay, do you, okay, Dan, do you use a high pass filter when the dog snores?
No, she's usually, she has a very high pitched snore, so it's not really a problem. I had a dog years ago who had a, get out of here, for crying out loud. It's no, I don't need it for that.
David, I'm sure your dogs just cannot come into your studio space because David's dogs breathe loud.
Yeah, but I don't record. But my sons have gotten into voiceover now, so yeah, we do have to work around the dogs. But see, here's a great thing. As Erica and I were talking about earlier, like Erica, I have these clear sonic portable walls, and they're fantastic, and I can just bring them anywhere. They're so light and portable. I have some that are 7 feet tall. And then I purchased 2 that are on the sides of my desk that are just up from the top of my desk to just right below the ceiling. And it's amazing. I have no like echo in here whatsoever. I don't, it sounds great. And I still have open space. I don't need ventilation. And while I'm not recording in my office, I'm still in the office all day long. And it sounds great. And I do have my kids recording here now. And yeah, it works really well.
We'll start with Erica. What do either of you do for HVAC fans in the house? Do you, or fan noise for, do you have that kind of issue, Erica?
Dan is the expert, but I run a high pass filter and a little bit of noise reduction. If I think that if I hear something that's constant and buzzy or whatever, then I'll do a little bit of post-processing especially for the clients. E-learning clients aren't audio engineers. So I do that as kind of my service to them, is that I give them kind of ready to use audio. So I turn off all the fans if they're a problem, and then whatever's left over, I can always do in post.
Awesome. How about you, Dan?
Here's what I always tell my wife. Now, when we were in Buffalo, it can get very cold there, and it can also get very warm and humid in the summer. So occasionally, and my studio was in the basement, so I would turn the furnace or the air conditioner off when I was recording. And so when my wife would come home and say, "Why is it so hot or so cold in here?" I would say, "I am making money and saving money at the same time." That's one of those sacrificial things you have to think about. What are the things that make noise in your studio? It's going to be air conditioning, air movement. The one that nobody realizes is their refrigerator. That's really where a lot of the low frequency hum comes from. And, you don't want to unplug your refrigerator. And if you do, you got to remember to plug it back in. I found a way to acoustically isolate it because it was right above me. And that solved that problem. The thing is most of us don't realize that the refrigerator is there, because if you're sitting there having a cup of coffee in your kitchen and you're like, does the fridge make a noise? And then you hear it, your brain is tuning it out as a monotonous tone. So you have to sit and listen. Where is that sound coming from? A lot of times it's coming from the refrigerator. So try to isolate yourself as far from your fridge as you possibly can. That thing will vibrate the whole house if you got a really loud compressor.
I live in a studio apartment. My home studio is next door at my brother's place, which is very cute. But yeah, that fridge, no kidding. Like doing video recording and things, I do a lot of noise reduction with lavaliers and stuff in this space, because the fridge is loud and it is not your friend, Chris says. Oh, and some people turn the fridge off while recording. So you better get to those recordings though, so you don't ruin your.
Hey, Dan, let me ask you a question. So what about taking off some low end to get rid of some of these fan noises? Are you a fan of that or not?
With the clients that I work with, when I see something at around 80 to 90 hertz, yeah, absolutely use a high pass filter. If your voice doesn't exist there,
It doesn't, right?
Just take it out. It's not going to affect your voice at all. It's when you start going to some of these digital effects that are like, I got to remove all this. That's when it can play with the frequencies where your voice exists, which is why I'm not a big fan of using a lot of processing for that kind of stuff. But a high pass filter is basically a physical, reduction of the low end under 80, 90, 100 hertz.
Yeah, we very often use it when mixing.
Just for folks who are totally new, Dan, can you explain what a high pass filter is?
Yeah, I mean, if you remember the old graphic equalizer type of thing, the human voice exists between essentially 20 hertz and about, well, maybe more like 80 hertz if you're like you were Don LaFontaine or something, or Idris Elba. And maybe as high as maybe 9 to 10,000 hertz or 10 kilohertz. So if your voice doesn't exist below 80 hertz, and you've got noise down there that it's actually inaudible. If you cut that out using the lower frequencies, 20 hertz, 30 hertz, up to 80 hertz, and just take them down to zero, it will reduce that. That's what a high pass filter, meaning literally that the higher frequencies will pass and the low frequencies will not.
It's sort of like just going to your radio in your car and lowering the bass.
Exactly.
But just more exact. You're really fine tuning where you lower the bass, because if you just lower the bass, you might make your voice thin. So what you can do with a high pass filter is set it so it only gets rid of the very, very low bass, which our voices don't produce sound at that point, as Dan said. It's just noise. It's extra stuff that you don't need to record. You don't need to send to your clients. And that's where a lot of the HVAC sounds come from. A lot of that low hums are in that area.
And generally, it's actually the air movement that's making the noise, not the actual fan, which is actually quite fascinating.
So we have science, we have the animal kingdom, and we have two incredible guests who gave us their time so generously today. So y'all, I really feel I love these events because I just like to get to know people, and these two I didn't know super personally before this. And so I just want to take a moment to, to thank them for being here. So you guys are like totally. And with that, it's like literally already, late for my East Coasters. Me and Dan are like still have plenty of time to party, but most of y'all probably have other things to do. So I just want to really quickly again drop our sweet link to the demo flash sale. If you haven't gotten in on it yet, now is your chance to. You have until tomorrow to do it. But I mean, there's no time like the present, and tomorrow's uncertain and all that stuff. So let's get in on that. And we will be doing this same bat time. So that is, oh my gosh, the first Tuesday, right? Right, David?
First Tuesday.
First Tuesday. And so if you are like, oh, wow. Oh, and if you want to join us, you can shoot me a message. If you're like, I want to host or something, or like, present your studio, we love to share this space with folks. But yeah, so Tuesday, that would be the 4th of April, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So y'all, appreciate your time. Erica, any last words from you before we head out here?
Don't let your booth get in the way of your work. Let your practice and your voice acting and you're just working hard, be your focus, and the booth will come. That was at least my experience.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. Dan, any last words from you?
It's important to isolate yourself as best you can. If you can get your booth right, it solves so many problems on the back end. The thing is it's literally impossible to have silence in a home studio. You really have to either find a good isolation spot and then maybe remove some of the lower frequencies. But there's so much more to it than that. And that's, the stuff that I teach about proper mic technique and setting levels and, reducing sound coming in and reducing the reflection. And by the way, there's no such thing as soundproof foam. I hear that more time.
Amazing. Thank you for these words of wisdom, David. And lastly, from you, I'll bring David up here too. David, this was David's idea, y'all. He is super passionate about, obviously David's an engineer, And the reason that Edge Studio exists is because of his scrappy engineering skills from the very beginning, many moons ago. And David, thank you for setting this up for us and bringing these incredible guests to our space tonight.
Hey, yeah, it's great. Thank you. And so I want to thank everyone for being out there. You guys rock. Great questions. Really fun to look at the chat. And Dan, thank you so much. Erica, thank you so much. Siobhan, you rock as our host. How about a hand for Siobhan, who runs all of these for us?
Thanks, y'all. Appreciate you and appreciate this space so much. So we'll see you next month. Save the chat if you so desire. That little ellipses at the bottom, the very bottom of the chat at the top of your drop down menu will do it. But otherwise, this recording will be on YouTube. Yeah, woo. Thank you, Gigi. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you. Happy evening. Have an amazing St. Patrick's Day. Yes. Okay. The Irish person. I had to say it. I'm Irish. Okay. Bye, you guys. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.